So today we're going to start the next part of our unit, which is slope. And to introduce this, we're going to go over the 4 different kinds of slope. So the 4 different kinds of slope are positive, negative, undefined, and 0. Now you read the line just like you would read a book. We're going to read the lines from left to right. So if from left to right, the line is increasing, it's said to have a positive slope. If from left to right, the line is decreasing, the slope will be negative. If the slope is just a vertical line that goes through the x-axis, it's undefined. And if the line is a horizontal line that just goes through the y-axis, then it's going to be a 0 slope. So go ahead and make sure that you have these 4 slopes written down on your note sheet and the examples that go with each one. Alright, so before we start getting into this, we need to really know what slope is. Slope is simply how steep a line is. So the actual definition, slope is the ratio of the amount of vertical movement, the rise, between 2 points, and the amount of horizontal movement, the run, between those 2 points. So a lot of times you're going to see it known as rise over run, which just is vertical over horizontal. It doesn't matter. This is very similar to what we were doing last week when we were setting the ratios y over x. What? Because we know that the y-axis is the vertical axis that goes up and down, so it's the rise. And the x-axis is the horizontal axis going across, which is the run. So again, we're really just setting our y over our x. Slope is given by the equation y equals mx plus b. The m here stands for the slope of the line. It's kind of similar to the y equals kx equation because the first half of this equation looks really similar to what you were working with last week, except instead of using k now for the constant, we're going to use m, which represents slope. The b in the equation represents the y-intercept, and that's simply where it crosses on the y-axis. And x and y here just symbolize an ordered pair. So the 3 things we have in this equation are y, which represents part of the ordered pair, the m, which represents the slope, x, which represents the second part of the ordered pair, and b, which represents the y-intercept. Alright, so let's look at our first example. I went ahead and labeled your axes here as positive and negative because the positive signs are a little hard to see going up towards the 0. They kind of look like negative signs there just because it's been shrunken down. So I went ahead, you have positive, positive, negative, negative. So you know which part of the axis is coming from where. Alright, so to get the slope, we are going to look at 2 points. And you want to make sure that you select points that cross a whole number value on the x-axis and a whole number value on the y-axis. So in this example, I've already given you some of the points that cross evenly. And now we just need to figure out what the rise and the run are. Now if I look at this line from left to right, I can see that this line is increasing. It's going up. That means that we're going to have a positive slope. Now I need to figure out how much this line is going up. So I'm going to go from one point to the next. So I'm going to use this bottom point down here, and I want to know how much I have to go up and go over to get to the next point. So I'm going to take my point and I have to go up 1, 2, 3. So I go up 3 and I have to go 2 to the right. So my rise would be 3 and my run would be 2. And that would be the slope, just 3 over 2. Now, you don't have to change this to decimals. You can just leave it as an improper fraction because that would tell us exactly we need to go up 3 and 2 to the right. So my equation, I'm going to say y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to replace the m with 3 over 2 because that's the slope of the line. And remember, the b is where it crosses on the y-intercept. So the y is the one that's going up and down. So if I look at this point right here, it's crossing on the y-axis. And it crosses on the y-axis as positive 1. So I'm going to replace the b with positive 1. So my equation now would be y equals 3 over 2x plus 1. And that's it. That's how you get your equation from the line. All right, let's move on to our next example. Now, if I look at this line from left to right, this line is decreasing. It's going down. So I'm going to, again, look at the 2 points, and it doesn't really matter which 2 points you pick as long as they're points that cross evenly on the x and y axis. And I want to figure out how much I have to go down and over to get to the next point. So I have to go down 1, 2. So that's going to be negative 2 since I'm going down. And I go over 1, 2, 3 to the right. So my rise would be negative 2. I'm going down 2. And the run would be 3. So negative 2/3. All right, now I'm going to set up my equation. So y equals mx plus b. I'm going to replace the m with negative 2/3. And the b in my equation, again, where this crosses on the y-axis. So this is the point where it's crossing on the y. And it is crossing at positive 6. So I'm going to say plus 6. And let's bring down that y. So my equation would be y equals negative 2/3 x plus 6. All right, our next example, we have a positive line. And we're going to pick 2 points that cross evenly. So on this one, I'm just going to go and show you that it doesn't matter which 2 points you pick, as long as they're points that cross evenly on the x and y axis. So let's start out with these 2 points. So you see that this one crosses evenly and this one crosses evenly, for example. Now to get from this point to the next point, I would have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So my rise would be 9. And I would have to go over 1, 2, 3. So my run would be 3. And we know that 9 over 3 simplifies to 3. Now let's say you saw 2 different points that cross evenly. So these points weren't labeled, but you see 2 other points that cross on the x and y with x and y as whole numbers. So let's say I see this point and this point first. So to get from one point to the next, I would have to go up 1, 2, 3, and I would go over 1. And we also know that 3 over 1 is also going to simplify to 3. So no matter what 2 points you pick, as long as they cross evenly on the x and y axis, you should get the same slope. So for my equation, I'm going to say y equals 3x, and now I need to figure out where my point crosses on the y-axis, and the line crosses right here, and that point is negative 5. So y equals 3x minus 5 would be my equation. All right, and our last example, I have a negative line, and let's figure out how much this line is decreasing. So I have to go down 1, 2, so I'm going down 2, so it's going to be negative, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. So I go down 2 and over 4, and this is going to simplify to negative 1/2. So my equation is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x. And now we need to see where it crosses on the y-axis, and it crosses here. So that's positive 2. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2.